Hello everyone, this is Jacob the Snack, and I have got my Oculus Rift working with IL-2 1946. And since this classic finally works with my Rift, I figure a dynamic campaign is in order. I've decided to challenge myself and pick an early war United States Navy dynamic campaign. I've picked the fighter pilot campaign for the Battle of Coral Sea, which happened in May of 1942. At this point in the war, the United States only had F-4Fs for fighter planes, while the Japanese had the upper hand in their Zeros. While we approach the battle, let's get some background. December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor is attacked. This prompts our airman Jacob the Snack to sign up for the Navy. After showing considerable skill in his aircraft, he was pressed into service and shipped out to the USS Lexington on the 1st of May in 1942. The 3rd Fighting Squadron is where Jacob would call his home. Our hero would find battle nearly immediately. The Battle of Coral Sea took place from the 4th to the 8th of May in 1942. In an attempt to strengthen its defensive position in the South Pacific, Japan decided to invade and occupy Port Moresby in New Guinea and Tulagi in the southeastern Solomon Islands. The U.S. learned of the Japanese plan through signals intelligence and sent 2 United States Navy carrier task force, the Lexington and Yorktown, and a joint Australian-American cruiser force to oppose the offensive under the command of Admiral Fletcher. On the 3rd and 4th of May, Japanese forces successfully invaded and occupied Tulagi, although several of their supporting warships were sunk or damaged in surprise attacks by aircraft from the U.S. fleet carrier Yorktown. Beginning on the 7th of May, the carrier forces from both sides engaged in airstrikes over 2 consecutive days. On the first day, the U.S. sank the Japanese light carrier Shoho. Meanwhile, the Japanese sank a U.S. destroyer and heavily damaged a fleet oiler, which was later scuttled. The next day, the Japanese fleet carrier Shokaku was heavily damaged, the U.S. fleet carrier Lexington was destroyed, and the Yorktown was heavily damaged. With both sides having suffered heavy losses in aircraft and carriers, the 2 forces disengaged and retired from the battle area. Because of the loss of carrier air cover, the invasion of Port Moresby was called off. The Battle of the Coral Sea is considered a strategic victory for the United States as the invasion of the port was repelled, but the Japanese claimed a tactical victory due to more ship tonnage being sunk. Let's see if Jacob can turn the tides of history and save his beloved Lexington. In what appears to be the invasion of Tulagi, commanders have informed us that our fellow fighter planes have run into more resistance than expected, and they need our help. As we approach the battle, it becomes more and more clear that our help was needed long ago, and we're hurrying as fast as we can to arrive.
240, altitude 25. Attention, fighters, 1 o'clock. This is 10. I'll be right there. Attention, fighters, get ahead. Heading 240. Altitude 25.
And need some help over here.
Attention, and fighters, 4 o'clock high. And I got one. This is 6. Sam, clear my
Sailing
tail.
out. This is 5. I'll be right there.
Number 5, Spanish, you're 6 o'clock high. This is 6. I'll be right there. This is 6. Anybody, clear my tail. Number 5, return to base immediately. Over.
As the calls got lesser and lesser, I worried that we would be overwhelmed as we arrived at the battle. As we arrive, we see that there are a few Zeros left over and only 1 or 2 friendly planes left. We hurry in and try to help them as quickly as possible. As we dive into the battle, I notice that our number 1 immediately calls out for cover, so I abandon my number 3 to go down and help him. As the lowest ranking member of this squadron, I have to stick with number 3 throughout this fight. Pulling a split S and coming back up towards the Zero, I misjudge how little energy it has and overfly it. As I pull back up for a high yo-yo, I hear that my commander, number 3, has gotten a kill.
This is 3. He's going down.
I'm more careful this time and get a good burst into him. as I go back in for another attack, my commanding officer is not happy that I've left number 3, and that spoils my run.
Heading 240. Altitude 05. Over. What the hell? Stay with your leader.
However, the first run was enough to take down the Zero, and I'm credited with my first kill.
Number 4. Good kill is going down.
There's not much left after that, so we leave the area. So that's battle number 1 for our beloved Jaker in the books. New pilots, after getting their first taste of victory, often forget a few things. And unfortunately, Jaker has forgotten something very important: his landing gear. So, as Jaker comes into land, something bad happens. Even though Jaker's plane slid off the end of the carrier and into the ocean, he survived and was able to hop back onto the carrier for his next flight. Pilot Jaker's first mission was a bit of a mixed bag. He went out, survived, and got a kill, but destroyed his own aircraft by forgetting how to land. Luckily, the second sortie went so smoothly that it's not even worth showing. A group of 4, including Pilot Jaker, flew out into the sea to find a downed aircraft, and then immediately returned home. So we'll skip on to the third sortie. At 12:30 hours on May the 6th, 2 groups of 4 fighters are scrambled out to reinforce friendly fighters that have run into more opposition than expected.
090. Altitude 25. Heading 180. Altitude 05. Attention.
Need some help over here.
1 o'clock. Number 3. Return to base immediately. Over. Heading 0. Altitude 25. Number 1. Bandit. You're 2 o'clock. This is 2. I got it. Hang on.
This is 3. We'll be right there.
This is 4.
Everyone's takeoff is successful, and before we can even form up, we're into the battle.
Hang on. Heading
Since I'm the lowest ranking member in number 8, I've got to stick with number 7 on this fight.
This is 2. I got it. Hang on.
Immediately, number 7 and number 5 start chasing after a high Zero.
Get him off me!
I go in to join them. The Zero manages to keep his speed high, and we can't get much closer to him.
This is 1. Anybody?
I'm third in line to shoot at one Zero that's over half a kilometer away.
This is 4. Damn. Get him off me.
Attention,
4.
fighters.
He's on
Get
fire.
ahead.
Peeling out. This is 4. I'm taking hits. This is 4.
Rather than waste my time here, I turn off and go to help some teammates with some 6s.
Heading 150. Altitude 10. Over. What the hell? Stay with your leader. Crap. Stay with
Only
your
a moment
leader.
passes
Stay
before
on
number
course.
7 calls out in distress. He's got a long 6 with a 0 on his tail. I dive in with an energy advantage, determined to shoot him down. The Zero spots me and tries to bleed me of my energy by taking me up high. He misreads the situation and doesn't realize how much of an energy advantage I have over him. I'm still gaining on him even though he's put us on equal energy terms. He doesn't have much energy for maneuvering, so I'm shooting him while I can.
This is 5.
A good hit ruptures the oil, but I'm not finished with him. A A good closing burst sets the Zero on fire. He's toast. Let's get a view of that from another angle.
This is 5. I'm taking hit.
After clearing number 7's tail, we fly back home. Another successful mission. That's kill number 2 for our pilot Jaker and only 3 sorties. He's on his way to becoming a good pilot. The sortie was a good one for VF3. 5 pilots come home with a kill. Pilot Jaker's heroic flying has earned him the Bronze Star. Incredible after only 3 sorties. Jaker's final sortie on May 6 will have him escorting SBD-3 bombers. The Allies have spotted a Japanese carrier and look to take it out. Stay tuned.